Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into the future today.
The future of higher education.
Specifically, in Africa. We've got a really interesting article from University World News
Yeah, it was published just last week, actually.
for Africa Universities Day.
It's a big deal.
Huge.
The 57th anniversary of the Association of African Universities.
Yeah, and to celebrate, they asked a bunch of student leaders what they think the university of the future should look like.
Exactly.
Which is so cool because we're not talking about some, science fiction future.
Right.
These are actual students
Mm-hmm.
who will be shaping higher education in the coming years.
Yeah, and what's interesting is these students come from all over. Gambia, Namibia, Kenya, Sierra Leone.
All over the place, but they all seem to agree on a few key things, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, it is. Access, for example, is a huge one. They all really want to see more people able to go to college.
That makes sense. I mean, education's like the foundation.
Oh, absolutely. It's how you unlock potential, both for individuals and for the entire continent.
But they're not just talking about getting more students into classrooms, are they?
No, they're talking about completely rethinking what those classrooms look like and what's being taught.
Yeah, they're all about the tech, aren't they?
Huge emphasis on technology, yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. Technology can change everything.
It can, and they have some really interesting ideas about how to use it.
Right.
Integrating AI, using virtual labs. Imagine, a student in rural Namibia
Yeah.
putting on a VR headset,
Wow.
and suddenly they're attending a world-class lecture on renewable energy.
That's incredible.
It's about breaking down barriers, expanding access.
But I mean, come on, that kind of tech upgrade would be expensive, right?
It would be a significant investment, no doubt.
It's especially across such a vast and diverse continent.
Yeah. But the students argue that the long-term benefits far outweigh the initial costs.
And it's not all on governments to fund this either, is it?
No, they see a role for everyone, the private sector, international partners.
Universities themselves, it's a team effort.
Exactly. Pooling resources, sharing expertise. It's the only way to make this vision a reality.
Okay, so I'm getting the picture. Technology can expand access, make learning more dynamic, and create a more engaging environment for students. But what about what they're actually learning? The curriculum.
That's another area where they're calling for big changes.
They're not happy with the status quo.
Not exactly. They're pushing for a move away from traditional disciplines, those really siloed departments,
Yeah.
and toward a more interdisciplinary approach.
Like more collaborative stuff.
Exactly. Focused on solving real-world problems.
Right. So instead of just studying, say, engineering in a vacuum,
Right.
they'd be working on a project, maybe with students from environmental science, business, even sociology,
Exactly. All working together.
to come up with a solution to a real problem.
Yeah, like designing a sustainable water filtration system for a specific community.
That's pretty awesome.
It is. They see that as the key, actually.
To what?
Solving Africa's and really the world's most pressing challenges.
Right, because those problems don't fit neatly into just one academic box.
Yep.
So we've got the tech piece, we've got the curriculum piece, and looking at our outline, I see sustainability as a big one too.
Huge emphasis on sustainability, yeah.
And not just in terms of making campuses more eco-friendly, right?
It's much more than that.
Oh.
They see it as this core value, something that should be woven into every aspect of the university experience.
Okay, so research should be focused on sustainable solutions.
Yes, exactly.
Campus operations should minimize their environmental impact. And even community engagement should be focused on sustainability issues
Exactly. They want universities to be models,
for the rest of society.
leading the way in terms of environmental responsibility.
So green buildings, renewable energy on campus, and maybe even courses where students work on sustainability-focused projects.
All of that, yeah.
Wow, okay, it's way more than just putting solar panels on the roof.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And it's not just environmental sustainability either. They're also talking about the social and economic dimensions.
So making sure everyone has equal access to education.
Exactly. Creating a system that's equitable, inclusive.
A university system that actually benefits the wider community.
That's the goal.
This is a pretty huge vision.
It is.
It's not just about upgrading some tech or tweaking a few courses.
It's a complete paradigm shift.
They're reimagining what higher education in Africa could be.
A system that's forward-looking, responsive to local needs, and deeply committed to sustainability.
And don't forget, collaboration's a big part of this too, right?
Oh, yeah, huge. They're really pushing for strong connections between universities across Africa,
Okay.
and even with the African diaspora.
A Pan-African knowledge network.
Yeah, exactly. Sharing expertise, collaborating on research, tapping into the talent and knowledge of the entire diaspora to contribute to the continent's development.
This all reminds me of something you mentioned earlier. The African Continental Qualifications Framework.
The ACQF, yeah.
Sounds like it plays a pretty key role in all of this.
It does. It's a really ambitious initiative.
For our listeners who might not be familiar with it, can you explain what it is?
Sure. Essentially, it's a continent-wide system for comparing and recognizing educational qualifications.
So a degree from, say, a university in Senegal
Would be recognized in Kenya.
or South Africa or anywhere else on the continent.
Exactly.
Wow, that's a huge step toward creating a more integrated higher education landscape.
It is. One of its big goals is to promote mobility.
So students and professionals can easily move.
Study, work, contribute their skills wherever they're needed.
I mean, that sounds like it could be a game changer.
It really could, and
And-
it ties in perfectly with the vision these student leaders are articulating. They see it as a vital tool for achieving that vision.
And you mentioned that the ACQF also emphasizes micro-credentials,
Yeah, those short, focused courses.
the ones that are super targeted at specific skills.
Exactly.
Which makes sense, given all the talk about making sure students have the skills they need for the modern workforce.
Yeah. That's one of the big things about micro-credentials. They offer flexibility
So students can pick up specific skills quickly and then adapt.
as the job market changes.
So they're more employable and prepared for this whole lifelong learning thing.
Exactly.
It's all pretty exciting stuff.
It is.
A really bold vision for the future of higher education in Africa. And it's coming straight from the students.
The people who will actually be shaping that future.
What fascinates me is how they've managed to weave together all these different threads. Technology, curriculum reform, sustainability, Pan-African collaboration. It's really impressive.
Ah.
But I have to ask, how do they see all of this actually happening?
It's a good question, and that's something we'll explore more in the next part of our deep dive.
Oh, that's right. We've got a whole other part to go.
We're going to look at the roles different players need to take on to make this vision a reality.
So governments, educational institutions, the private sector, international partners.
Everyone. It's a massive undertaking.
But it's a really inspiring one. And I'm excited to dig into how it might actually work.
Yeah, me too. It's going to be fascinating. So how do we actually make this happen? You know, turning this vision into reality.
Right, because it's one thing to have all these amazing ideas,
It is.
but actually putting them into practice on such a large scale that takes real effort.
It does. And coordination. And the students recognize that.
Do they?
Yeah, they emphasize the need for strong partnerships between governments,
Okay.
educational institutions, the
Right.
private sector, international organizations. Everyone needs to be on board.
A real team effort.
Right.
Let's break that down a bit. Starting with governments, what's their role?
Governments have a huge responsibility, no doubt.
My gut.
They need to prioritize education funding, first and foremost.
Make sure there's enough money for everything.
Yeah, for infrastructure, research, attracting good faculty, you know, keeping those great professors around.
Right, because you can't do much without the resources.
Exactly. It's about creating an environment where universities can actually thrive.
But it's not just about money, is it?
No.
What about policies? Do those need to change too?
Oh, absolutely. Governments need to be flexible, forward-thinking.
In terms of how they approach education?
Yeah. This might mean streamlining accreditation processes,
Okay.
supporting the development of new curricula, encouraging universities to innovate, you know, in how they teach and how students learn.
So it's not just about funding, it's about creating space for real change.
Exactly.
Speaking of change, what about the universities themselves?
They're at the heart of this, obviously.
Right.
They need to be proactive, revising their curricula, making sure what they're teaching aligns with, you know, what the world actually needs.
So less focus on rote memorization, more on things like critical thinking and problem solving.
Exactly. Things like creativity, digital literacy, all those skills that employers are actually looking for.
Right, because the world is changing so fast.
Yeah, it is. And education needs to keep pace.
Okay, so what's being taught needs to change. But it's also how it's being taught, right?
Absolutely. The students are calling for a move away from lectures.
Which have been standard forever.
Yeah, more hands-on, active learning.
So less talking at students, more doing.
Exactly. Think project-based learning, group work, Internships, where students are actually tackling real-world
That
problems,
makes a lot of sense.
giving them practical
And
experience,
helping them develop those soft skills.
like communication, teamwork, all that stuff. But setting up those kinds of opportunities takes work, doesn't it?
It does, and that's where the private sector comes in.
Ah, okay. How so?
Businesses and industries are key partners here. They can offer internships, mentoring, even funding for research projects.
So students get valuable experience and companies get access to all this young talent.
Exactly. It's a win-win.
Yeah.
And it strengthens that connection between universities and the workforce.
Make sure what's being taught is actually relevant to what employers need.
Yeah, it closes that gap. And what about international partners? Where do they fit in?
They can play a really important role, especially when it comes to things like knowledge sharing, capacity building.
Helping universities develop new programs or train faculty.
Exactly. And technology transfer.
Okay.
They can also provide funding for research, scholarships for students, all kinds of support.
It sounds like there are a lot of different pieces to this puzzle.
There are,
Yeah.
but the main takeaway is that collaboration is essential.
Across the board,
Yeah, everyone needs to work together,
leveraging their strengths, expertise.
looking towards a common goal.
So it's not just about individual institutions changing. It's about the entire system transforming.
Exactly. It's a recognition that no one can do this alone. Transforming higher education in Africa requires a collective effort, a shared commitment to really make education accessible, relevant, and transformative.
Okay, so we've laid out the key players and their roles.
Yeah.
But are there actual examples of this vision in action?
Oh, absolutely. There are some really cool initiatives happening all over the continent.
Like what?
Well, some universities are partnering with tech companies, developing online learning platforms.
To reach those students in remote areas.
Yeah. Others are setting up innovation hubs, incubators to support student entrepreneurs,
Wow.
help them develop local solutions to local problems.
I love that.
And then you have universities that are completely redesigning their curricula.
Moving away from traditional departments, becoming more interdisciplinary.
Exactly. And really incorporating project-based learning into everything they do.
That's fantastic. It sounds like this isn't just talk.
It isn't. There's real momentum, a sense that change is actually happening.
But I have to ask, what about the challenges?
Ah, yes, there are always challenges.
I mean, this is a huge undertaking.
It is.
What are some of the biggest hurdles?
Well, funding is a big one, of course.
Always.
African universities often have very limited resources.
Right.
And to implement a lot of these ideas, they'll need a serious influx of cash.
And it's not just about one-time investments either, is it?
No, it's about sustainable funding over the long term.
So governments need to step up, make education a real priority.
They do. And universities need to be creative.
In terms of finding funding.
Yeah. Look at partnerships with the private sector, alumni fundraising, international grants, thinking outside the box.
So funding is one big challenge. What else? What are some other potential obstacles?
Resistance to change.
Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah,
People get comfortable with how things are.
they do. And making this vision a reality requires a real shift in mindset. People need to embrace new approaches to teaching, to learning, even to how universities are run.
Right, because you could have the best ideas in the world.
You could.
But if people aren't willing to change, nothing's going to happen.
Exactly. You might have faculty who are resistant to using technology in the classroom, or administrators who are clinging to those old departmental structures.
So how do you overcome that?
It takes strong leadership, open communication, a real commitment to collaboration and inclusivity.
Right.
You have to bring everyone along. Faculty, staff, students, even the community.
So that everyone feels like they're part of the process.
Exactly. It's not just about changing structures and systems. It's about changing mindsets and cultures.
Which is a much deeper and more complex challenge.
It is. And it takes time, patience,
Nah.
a willingness to learn, and to adapt along the way. But I think what's so inspiring about this vision
Yeah.
is that it's driven by this deep belief in the power of education.
To change lives, to change the world.
Exactly. These student leaders see education as the key to unlocking Africa's potential.
And driving progress, not just on the continent, but globally.
Yes, it's a vision worth fighting for, even with all the challenges.
I agree. And what strikes me is that even though this is focused on Africa, it has implications for everyone.
Oh,
A
definitely.
lot of the challenges and opportunities these students are talking about, they're playing out in higher education systems all over the world.
They are.
This emphasis on technology, on interdisciplinary learning, on sustainability, on connecting with the community. These are themes that resonate everywhere.
They do. What's happening in Africa, it's kind of a microcosm of this larger transformation. That's happening in higher education globally.
It's like they're at the forefront of something really big.
I think so. And that's one of the reasons why this vision is so compelling. It's not just about changing universities in Africa. It's about changing how we think about education as a whole.
Creating a future where education is truly a force for good.
Exactly.
These student leaders are really challenging us to rethink what higher ed can be.
They are. It's not just about, like, tweaking the existing system a little bit.
They're talking about a complete transformation.
Yeah, and one thing that's really striking is how important inclusivity is to their vision.
I noticed that too. It comes up again and again.
It does, yeah. They want to create a system that's truly open to everyone.
No matter who you are, where you come from, or how much money you have.
Exactly. They recognize that a diverse student body, with people from all different backgrounds,
It benefits everybody.
it does. It makes the learning experience richer for everyone.
Right. And they also see education as this powerful tool for social mobility, right?
It's a way to break down those barriers.
Create a more equal society.
Exactly.
So it's not just about getting more students in the door. It's about making sure everyone feels welcome and supported once they're there.
Creating a truly inclusive environment. And that inclusivity extends beyond the student body, too.
Oh.
How so? Well, they also talk a lot about the need for universities to be more connected to their communities.
Like actually engaged with what's happening around them.
Yeah, they see universities as these hubs where, they're working with local organizations, businesses, trying to solve real problems.
Like poverty or access to health care or environmental issues.
All of that. They want universities to be catalysts.
For positive change, not just, these isolated institutions.
Yeah, no ivory towers. They want to be part of the solution. And that connects back to what we were talking about earlier.
Relevance.
Yeah, making sure what's being taught in universities is actually useful to people.
Yeah.
That it can be applied to real-world challenges.
Making education a force for good in the world, not just like an academic exercise.
Exactly. And what's so encouraging is that this isn't just a theory, it's actually happening.
It is. That's great.
Yeah, all across Africa, you see universities experimenting, trying new ways of teaching, using technology in creative ways, building partnerships with communities. It's really exciting.
It's like a movement that's gaining momentum.
It is. And students are at the heart of it.
Are they?
Oh, absolutely. They're organizing workshops, advocating for more sustainable campuses.
Coming up with their own solutions to local problems.
They're not waiting for someone else to tell them what to do. They're just doing it.
That's amazing. It just goes to show that real change often starts from the ground up.
It does, with individuals taking action, coming together,
Sharing ideas.
building a better future. And I think that's a key takeaway from all of this.
Definitely. This isn't just about Africa.
It's about all of us.
It's about the power of vision.
The importance of students being engaged.
And believing that education can truly change the world.
It can.
It's a call to action for all of us, really, to think about what we can do to make education better, more equitable, more accessible.
More transformative.
For everyone. So, as we wrap up, let's put the question back to you, our listener. What role do you want to play in shaping the future of education? Not just in Africa, but globally.
What skills can you bring? What knowledge? What resources?
Even small actions can make a difference.
The future of education is in all our hands. Let's make it a future we can all be proud of.